Hello and welcome to the second series of NSN Connect, which is focusing on CSR in India and capturing the big picture with the help of conversations with Ms. Meena Ragunathan, who has recently published her book, Doing Good, Navigating the CSR Maze in India. While evaluating and monitoring a CSR project, there could be many questions like how does it get reported, what is the best way to do it, and also what are the tools and methodologies. For all this, you might have to refer to the book, but Ms. Meena Ragunathan is here to give us some tips and also some advice on how to go about doing reporting and creating an impactful report which goes beyond a series of success stories or any measurable outcomes. In this episode, let's look at presentation of impact studies in CSR by going beyond just reporting or presenting the evaluation of the project. Yeah, ma'am, so far you have described and also presented a very detailed idea about various aspects of CSR, and the last conversation we were talking about processes, challenges, and the kind of skills the CSR professionals and the NGO partners might have to have when they negotiate a project. So the outcome of a project is normally reported as an impact assessment report or anything which is kind of giving the outcomes and the impact, the tangible and the non-tangible aspects of the impact. So if people have to really prepare this report, or rather think about preparing such a report right from the day they have started the project, or at a certain stage when they feel, okay, now is the time for me to conceptualize the report, okay, what could be the parameters, or what are the areas where we have to research and maybe, have a team in place and things like that. So for such a situation, what would be your advice? Before even starting and reporting things very typically in the form of a success story or an impact story, do you think this is the way, or do you think this is what the corporates expect at the end of a CSR project? So could you please tell us a bit more about how we can handle the impact assessment part of it?
Right. It's also becoming very important because the law is now mandating that. But I would begin by saying that a good project design of any development project has inherent in it monitoring and evaluation. Whether it is a CSR project done by an NGO, whatever it is, you're supposed to build these things in. So generally, my feeling is one has to start with a needs assessment. One has to start with a baseline survey, and one must have then a theory of change, kind of documentation which gives the cause and effect, what leads to what. And from there, one can derive what are the indicators of the change and how do you kind of measure them. So I think if one starts with a proper planning, one will then naturally do monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring is ongoing. Right? And evaluation is at either a milestone or at the end of a project. So you're looking back in evaluation. Monitoring, you're doing it online, trying to correct as you go along. And I think that, for the smallest to the biggest project, we do need to have this consciously in our minds. It's not that evaluation or impact assessment needs to involve a big budget and also, some big team or consultant from outside. It's something that we can do even by ourselves. I've seen some corporates, interestingly, they will put together a team from different departments who will maybe, at a milestone, sit down and look at the project, discuss the project, talk to stakeholders, and they bring in different perspectives. And that's a very good way because you're always also involving the core strengths of the business. For instance, suppose the foundation has taken up a project to build toilets. Maybe as part of the monitoring or evaluation, suppose you bring in the engineers from the business. Supposing you bring in some of the OB people or the HR people who can talk to stakeholders, understand their reactions and what are the barriers and challenges. So putting together it's really about bringing in, one is you are very conscious as an implementer and very conscientious in measuring what you're doing. But the second evaluation is also getting a kind of feedback from stakeholders is one thing, but also getting an objective view. Because you're so immersed in the process, it's good if somebody says, hey, have you thought of this? Could you have done it like this? Would you do it like this? So, bringing in some kind of this objective outsider-insider kind of view without going to some major consultant, sit and discuss with the business teams, have a few representatives, discuss with them what the objective is, let them put a fresh eye, let them bring their technical expertise. So some of those experiments have been quite interesting and successful. And of course, now for, as per the mandate of the law itself, larger projects, there's a definition of, over 5 crores, whatever. Let me just read out. You have to assess the social impact of some CSR projects. The intent is to encourage companies to take considered decisions before deploying CSR amounts and assess the impact of their CSR spending. This not only serves as feedback for companies to plan and allocate resources better, but shall also deepen the impact of CSR. So this is what the ministry itself is saying in its FAQ. So it's been mandatory for certain large projects. So yeah, at some stage, we have to be serious, because I think for about 6-7 years we've been spending a lot, and we all, as you said, have our success stories. And that's what we like to highlight, whether it's the NGO implementing partner to the CSR team, or the CSR team upwards to the CSR committee, the CEO and the board. We all want to project success stories. Yeah. And we all want to show that we've met our targets. Now we also have to show that we had an impact. But, I think the space for making mistakes and learning is reducing in this process, which is very, very important in development projects, because you want to, there's this pressure to say, yes, everything went well. So we are not sitting back, we are kind of trying to hide what went wrong or what did not work. We are highlighting all the success stories, as you said, but really not, it's more about reflecting. So, the reflection process is going away because there is a rush to say everything is good. Okay. So I think somewhere the space has to be created.
Yeah. Like you very rightly pointed out about the need for reflection and also scope to admit that, okay, there were certain issues, or, there were certain flaws, or things didn't go well as per the plan, which is possible in every project. So in case we need to accommodate this, and what would be the other way to present, this kind of an impact assessment, either a report or any document or any tangible form of something to show that, yeah, things work this way, a certain percentage of it really gave the desired results, whereas a certain percentage did not work. So it's fine to admit and accept that. So how do you think we can look at it from a different angle? And also people should be able to, look at this aspect of the impact assessment as well.
I think it really has to start with, very sensitive and mature boards who understand the realities of the situation will appreciate this, or a CEO who understands this, and that is today the acceptance that you need, because they are the guys who kind of call the shots on CSR or say whether it is. So I think a lot of sensitization at that level is required. Okay. Otherwise, what I also find is it distorts the kind of projects I take up. I would rather say I'll build 10 toilets than to say I will try to bring about a change in behavior. Because neither is it very tangible, nor do they really understand what it's about, nor can I show by research at a very small level that yes, I started with 100 children who were not washing their hands, and now 80 of them are washing their hands. How will I prove that? How will I prove the implications of that? Is that really appreciated? So in a certain way, it's again about the understanding of the development sector by the business side, which is required, because it's a different mindset, and they come from a different world. So I think this constant exchange of experiences, perspectives, what this is about has to happen, and then things will work itself, because after all, who is taking the call on that impact report or the evaluation? It's the board.
Yeah, so to simplify and put it in simple words, what would be your way of presenting, assessing social impact or anything on these lines? How would you define this?
It's a very tough call. One is, of course, I think one has to be very honest in doing it, but also maybe approaches like social return on investment might be a good way of SROI, could be a good way of, because I think that this is a language which business also understands. The moment you use the word ROI, it's something that they are comfortable with. So if we go towards maybe SROI, of course, it's a very complex process, and it's not objective, because you're assigning all kinds of subjective values, but it's still something where you can say that for 1 rupee spent, this is the good I got out of it, and it's a language that I think business understands. So maybe something like that.
And also perhaps the tools that are being used throughout the study could be a combination of quantitative and qualitative tools. To get into the depth of the analysis, because it involves human beings, as is already.
Absolutely. Case studies and stories are a great way to communicate. I take your point that we should not simply be giving success stories. It has to be backed with data figures, but human interest stories are ultimately what make the difference. Only out of 100 people who went through my education or health or whatever program, I can't choose the 3 who are saying nice things and good things happen, and that's what we all tend to do, right? So how do you do that?
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope it was useful in getting an overview about how to present the impact study, the impact story, and also the learnings from it. We look forward to your continuous support and participation in the coming episodes, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any update from us. Thank you, goodbye. I look forward to meet you in the next episode.